Hey, welcome to today's training on how to build a GoHighLevel Marketplace app. I'm Quentin, and today we're going to be walking through how to set up OAuth 2 in a GoHighLevel Marketplace app so that you can start selling your app to everybody that uses GoHighLevel, or you can simply use it as an upgrade for your users. Now, for the prerequisite for today, we have a few things we're going to need to set up. The very first thing you're going to need is to go to marketplace.gohighlevel.com/signup and enter your information to create a developer account. Once you do that, you'll actually create an app, simply give it a name, and then choose these details. Now for today, we're just going to select it to be public, the target user sub account, everyone can install the app, and it's a white label type app. I'll do future videos on what all of these things mean and what they have an impact on, but for today, this is all we need to set up. Now, in your app, you are going to be required to just upload a logo and a category. So just make sure you do that. You can choose anything, but you won't be able to save it until you do that. Then, once you have set that up, you're going to go to the advanced settings dropdown, and you're going to select scopes, and you're also going to add a redirect URL later on. But for right now, all you need to do is choose the scopes that we want to use for this demo. Those scopes are going to be contacts.read and contacts.write. Then from there, you're going to need to go to the manage section of the app profile, click secrets, click add, and then give your key pair a name, and make sure you copy these down and save them, because you will not be able to see the client secret again after you close this window. So make sure you copy these down, and then we'll use them in the future steps. Just so you can get an actual sense of what exactly this looks like, I'll show you the demo app that I have created. So I put a random logo, random category, and just named it demo test. Then under the advanced settings and auth, I chose contacts.read only and contacts.write. And then under manage here, went to secrets, and then I clicked add to create a set of client ID and secret keys that I can use. So once you've done all that, we'll go ahead and move on to the next important step, which is going to be setting up your server instance. So OAuth 2 is a two-step process. So it starts in the browser, finishes on the server, and then returns a response back to the browser. So for today's scenario, I'm using make.com. It's a really good no-code automation tool. It's very similar to Zapier. You can also use N8N or any other no-code tool that you are familiar with that gives you a webhook as the triggering scenario. So just so you can see what this entire scenario looks like, I'll show you here. We just have one webhook. We have an exchange code step, and then we have a lookup step just to make sure that the token that we created has the right permissions. And then lastly, we're going to save that token in a spreadsheet so that we can use it in future instances as well. So to create this scenario, just create the new scenario and then set up webhook as your first step. When you do that, it's going to ask you to create a webhook instance, just give it a name, and then it's going to say listening for events. That's fine for right now. We're going to leave it right there, but we're going to copy that URL and we're going to use it in the next steps. So once you create that server webhook step, copy the URL. Then the next most important thing is going to be building a page where we can actually put this URL and have it send the data to actually exchange the code for the tokens. So I promise this is going to be as low tech as possible for this training. So we are going to be using GoHighLevel's website builder. So in your GoHighLevel account, all you need to do is go to sites here and then just create a new website, name it whatever you want. And then in that website, we're only going to have two pages. For this step, we're just going to build the landing page. So to see what that landing page looks like, I'll pull that up. And you can see it's extremely, extremely simple. So all I have is one simple image up at the top just for some visual cueing. And so this is a one column section here with an image in the middle. And then I have a one column section down below with a custom script. And if you don't know how to find that, you just click add elements here. Just type in SCR and you can see code comes up as the element. So you'll drag this into here. Then once you have that in there, click on it, open the code editor, and then you're going to copy and paste the code that should be attached to this lesson. If you're watching this on YouTube, There will be a link to the code. If you're watching it in the official course, it'll be linked down below this video. Copy and paste that code into there, click save, and make sure, I put this here so that you can see, make sure after you add that code element, you replace that yourdomain.com that comes with the code snippet with your URL. So that URL that you got from the make scenario here, make sure that you take that URL and you paste it right into here, and then save and publish the page. Now, one important step to keep in mind is that because we chose the app type to be white labeled when we set up the app, we cannot have any mentions of GoHighLevel in any of our app settings. So for this next step, we need to set up a redirect URL. To do that, we can't have GoHighLevel be in the URL itself. And so what we need to do for that is just in that site that you built, you should have an option up here, a little button that says connect domain. Choose any random testing domain that you have. If you don't have one, should be really easy to get one. Connect that domain, and that's it. Now, if you did not choose white label when we set this up, you don't have to worry about this. But for today's training, we did choose white label so you could see all of the restrictions and requirements. So this is going to be a requirement. So make sure you map a domain. Great. So this is our landing page. And once we have our landing page built, we need to add that URL as the redirect URL for our marketplace app. So back in our marketplace listing, if we come back over here to advanced settings and then auth, we already have our scopes selected, but now we need to paste that redirect URL. So that's why we built the landing page first, is because we need that URL first. So we're going to add that URL in here. And in case you don't know where to get it, it should show up once you map that domain here, give you the full domain plus the endpoint that you need to paste. So copy and paste this, and then just add it right back into your marketplace redirect setting, and then click save. Once you have that, all we need to do is set up our start page. So we have the landing page, we have the code snippet installed, and the URL is listening. The make scenario is listening for any request to come through. So now all we need is a start button where we can start the request through, and this is going to be in place of wherever your landing page is for your app. So once you understand this training and you're ready to start implementing it, there just needs to be a button somewhere on your page or in your app that people can click on to then authenticate with GoHighLevel. Now, one very important thing to see about this redirect URL is that there are some things that must be in there. So when you go to your marketplace app, you'll see that there's a drop down called install link. And that install link is meant to give you kind of an easy access copy and paste that you can put for the button on your start page. So what this does is when you get taken to this URL, which I'll show you in a second, you'll see the full authentication page for the user to actually select what they want to allow and then what account they want to add it to. So get that full redirect URL, and you must have these parameters exactly. So the redirect URI must be exactly what you just saved in your marketplace listing. The scopes must be, first of all, it's scope, not scopes. And then it must be what you selected in the scope dropdown. Now, I know it's going to look weird and feel weird to put a space here between each of the scopes, but it is absolutely crucial that there is a space there so that it can be properly URL encoded. So don't put anything in between there. And then everything else must also be in there. So response type is code, client ID is your client ID, which that comes pre-filled in the copy paste. The redirect URI is your redirect URI. The scope is the scopes that you have. And then the version ID is also required. But as you can see from the install link here, if I show it, you can see it already carries the version ID in it. So you don't have to worry about what that is. You just have to know that it has to be in there. So I have the response type is code, redirect URI is where it's going to go, client ID is my client ID, the scope is my scopes, and then the version ID. So this entire URL must just be pasted directly in the start page button URL. So if I switch to my start page here, you can see again, it's a very, very similar, simple page. One image at the top, one button down below, and that button for the action needs to link to a website URL, and that website URL needs to be the install link for your app. So this is where everything starts from. This is how we kick off the whole OAuth flow. So it's very important that URL is set. Now, once we have that set, all we should have to do is test out the flow and choose the account that we want to authenticate for. So in this case, I am going to go back to my start page here and actually click on that. So now I'm on my start page, click Connect GoHighLevel. And what it'll do is it'll open a new tab that opens the details of the app that I just built. So it should have the name, the logo, the section, and the permissions that I need. So once this is showing, you can click next, and then it's going to ask you to choose which account you want to connect it to. So I'm going to just choose this account. And then afterwards, this is all you should see. If you copy and pasted the scope correct or the script correctly, it should get a response back from Make saying, yep, we stored the tokens and everything is good. And then back in your OAuth scenario, you should see a little checkbox that looks something like this. So you should see the success message just like that. And then you should also see the successfully determined flow. So that successfully determined message says, hey, Make got the request. We know what the structure is. We're ready to move on. So you're not fully done with. All right. So I guess this training is a little long, so I'm having issues with the recording interrupting. So sorry about that. But now we should have the webhook structure successfully determined. So we know Make knows what the structure of the webhook is. We've completed the first half, which is setting up the start page and landing page to get the code. And then now we're going to send that code on the server side to actually exchange it. So to show what this exactly looks like, there should be a new HTTP request action in your Make scenario. So in my scenario, it looks like this, and it's called exchange code. And so I set it up as a no authentication type just because Make has a weird way of setting that up. But then the URL is the services.leadconnectorhq.com/OAuth/token. It's a post request. And then the body type, very important, must be application x www form URL encoded. And then you only need a few parameters. So you need the client underscore ID, just like this, with your client ID, your client secret, which you got earlier. Remember, I said you need to copy and paste that down because you're not going to be able to access it again. And then you just need to add the grant type in here and the authorization or the value of authorization underscore code, and then the actual code itself, which comes from the webhook. So this is why we have to set up the webhook first. It's because we have to be able to tell our server scenario what value in the payload we want to exchange. So then we have the code in here. We have all of this set up. And then the next step is just to look up a contact just to make sure that the token that we created has the necessary permissions to actually access what we're trying to access. So for that, it's very simple. Again, set up no authentication because it's a dynamic token. And so we're going to need to change it out throughout the request. So the URL is just the services.leadconnectorhq.com/contacts. And this is just a random contact that I created in one of the previous trainings to get. And then for the headers, you just set up authorization and then bearer with a space and then map it to the access token that got created from the exchange step. And then, of course, you always need a version. We went over that in the last training, but you always need a version header set to whatever it says in the docs. In this case, it's this. And that's it. Then if you get a successful response, the scenario should go through to then actually save that token to a spreadsheet that you created. And just so you can see what that spreadsheet looks like, it's very simple. Location ID column A, access token, refresh token, created at, just a very simple spreadsheet. This serves in place of what your database would do in a production application. But for our use case, for our demo, this is what we need. So just to make sure that that goes through, create all of these steps, pause the video as much as you need to go back and check it out. Create all these steps, save it, turn it on so that it's as immediately as data arrives, and then make sure that the scenario is actually active as well. Because if it's not active, you're not actually going to get any of the requests to come through. So once you have all of that, then you should just have to re-authenticate one more time. And then you'll see in the response, we have an access token and a refresh token. So that is the complete flow from OAuth 2.0 beginning to end. You just did it. Congratulations. This is exactly how every app in the marketplace works. You have a listing with a client ID, redirect URL, and then you exchange that with your client ID and secret for an access token and refresh token. With this access token, you can now do anything you need on the API where the scopes give you permission. So you can see again in the scopes in the screenshot here, contacts.read only, contacts.write. That is all I needed. And I was able to successfully look up the contact. So that means that the scopes went through. So this is just, again, reevaluating what exactly that last step is just to make sure that we have the access, that the request went all the way through. You should get a 200 response type if you did it all correctly. The final steps, again, make sure you activate your scenario, make sure that everything is listening. And then you should be able to see in the GET request with that new token, you now have a 200 response. Now, this is the whole flow, and I just want to make sure that everybody watching understands that access tokens do expire every 24 hours. That is one of the major points of OAuth 2, is that the tokens are short-lived tokens. And so that way, if one happens to get leaked somehow, it's only got a finite life experience, and they can be rotated and revoked at any point just by issuing a new token. So whenever you create one set of tokens, the last set automatically invalidates. But in your production environment, you are going to need to make sure that you either have a timer that is just going every 23 hours, looking up your tokens and exchanging them using the refresh token. So the only difference is that in the grant type, instead of setting code or authorization code, you would just set refresh token. And then instead of setting code as the parameter that you send refresh token. And that will make it so that you can get a brand new set of access and refresh tokens. And then you can forever authenticate as long as that person does not change their password or manually uninstall the app. So I hope this all makes sense. This is the beginning flows of creating a marketplace app. This is everything you absolutely have to do. And just to get authenticated and get people to install it from the marketplace. And I hope it made sense. And the next module we're going to do is going to be webhooks. So now we're going to be talking about how you can listen to automated webhook events coming through with that new token that you just created, so that you can actually run tasks in the background. So we're going to go over how you can actually enrich contact data whenever a contact is created using webhooks. So if you want to see how that works, watch the next video. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.